picked that up.
How I'm doing it cheaper.
Okay. No. For instance, this Magalia Paradise Pines, we had 16, which was a big majority.
Before the break, we had, I think Mr. Jones was up here talking about the Durham-Dayton-Nelson plan. There's a little bit of confusion about what the density actually requires under the Durham-Dayton-Nelson plan. And we've got that up on the screen right here. And I believe that there was a little bit of confusion between the rural residential designation, which is a 5-acre or more density, and the very low density residential, which is a 1-acre or more density. So you can see from this diagram that the majority of the area surrounding Durham is a 1-acre or more density. So hopefully that clarifies that for everybody here. Does anybody have any questions about the D2N plan? Any further questions? No? Yes, you did.
Unanimously.
Yes.
Oh, so here, go for it. Stereo. Tonight we changed that from, from...
That's right.
We didn't.
Yeah.
Basically, the whole presentation was based upon far fewer houses or dwelling units than what we ended up with. So we voted for something that is no longer the case.
Right. There was some errors that Tanya went over with some of the study areas, and under study area 17 for Durham, the presumption was that there would be 50 units, and actually there's 500 dwelling units under the existing zoning.
And the whole presentation is based upon 50 units. So we didn't vote for what we thought we were voting for.
Okay. Well, that's noted then. Okay. And I think I'll just recap some of the corrections that Tanya made before we start around the table that might have bearing on how you're going to look at reopening study areas. Under study area 3, Magalia Paradise Pines, you voted for, 16 of you voted for alternative 3, which was presumed to allow 400 new homes. And actually, with the correction, it was about 3,800 new homes. Okay? And we also had a correction to study area number 11, the Paradise Urban Reserve, which was presumed to allow 100 new homes. Actually, no units permitted under that study area. And then we caught the one in Durham. Also in Durham, the Water District, if you recall, was represented to not serve residential areas, and actually it does. So the Water District rating increased. And so that Water District can actually serve residential units. And then lastly was the Oroville Hills correction, study area 23, the grade change from an A to D on changes in agriculture due to the information on important farmland being different than was represented in the alternatives evaluation report. So I think I caught them all, Tanya. And I think we'll move on to this part of the evening where we're going to discuss reopening study areas, and we're going to start with Tony Rushing and move our way around the table. We're going to ask each person to give us one study area and one reason why that study area should be open. And we'll move on to the next person. After we get a number of study areas listed, we'll go around the table again to make sure we get them all. And then we'll take a straw vote on each of these suggestions. And with a minimum of 10 Citizens Advisory Committee members responding, we'll reopen those study areas for further deliberations. So, Tony, you have the spotlight.
Oh, gee, thanks. Hello? Thing on? I would like to propose that we reopen study area 29, Palermo. The reason being is that, just as has been said tonight, the market is going to drive growth. There's no infrastructure out there, and to keep it, I think we should keep it as the existing general plan as it is, just because I do not believe in taking people's property rights away. I don't think this will have a great deal of effect on the area. I believe it will remain pretty much like it is. just because the lack of facilities. That's my proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tony. All right, moving on to Kent.
I'd like to reconsider Berry Creek, number 8, for the simple fact I don't think I know enough of the impact in that community, and I'd like to further that educational effort.
Okay. Next.
Early on, we talked about the principles and policies that we wanted to espouse and reaffirm here. One of those was open spaces. Area 15 should remain an open space and be consistent with the rest of the decisions we've made around that corner. So I'd like to reopen 15.
15. Okay. Harmon?
I'd like us to open 34, the city's building land use circulation diagram that Andrew provided, which has removing the ag funds.
Could you use a mic, Harmon?
Yeah, please, everybody use the mic, please. I'd like to open number 34 and adopt the City of Greeley's land use and circulation diagram as submitted by Ms. Redamani today, with the caveat of removing the ag buffer in the entire planning area.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Miller?
I'd like to recommend that the Forest Ranch area, number 4, be designated the geographic requirements of the Forest Ranch Community Association rather than this arbitrary square block.
Thank you. Emily?
I'd like to look at Area 9, Doe Mill Honey Run. Especially that I appreciated the comments of the gentleman that spoke about the salmon runs and being more conscious and protective of those areas. And Area 9 was one area that he mentioned, and concern about our alternative we chose was protective for now, but I've been concerned with the level that it seems like development proposals are kind of being allowed to drive decisions that we make. So that's what I would suggest.
Thank you. Todd?
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to reopen it, but I wanted some clarification, some discussion on Area 23, whether that was resolved during public discussion or not.
Okay, thank you. Bruce?
Well, yeah, just because of the discrepancy from 400 homes to 3,800 homes, I think we need to talk about 5.
Okay. Pia?
My first vote is for reopening number 5 too. As I remember, we had a very large caveat on there that was made the analogy to I think if frogs had wings or something, and it was if there's water, if the area could find water, if the area could find the services available, and I don't think there's that available for 3,800 homes.
Okay. Donna?
I would like to address areas around Biggs of 31 and I believe 33 for urban reserve.
Could you say that again?
31 and 33 for urban reserve.
Okay. John?
I'd like to reopen Area 15. The principal reason being that it's in what's classified as the high priority vernal pool recovery area, and that's the same designation that the Fish and Wildlife Service, a federal agency, has on all that land sitting outside of UC Merced. And if a bunch of UC regents and 2 governors can't crack that, I don't see how we're going to do it out there on an interchange of Durham Pence. So,
thank you. Helene?
It's a hard decision. 10 and 15 were mentioned a lot, but I think I'm going to choose Area 8 They didn't originally have a plan. We did those small community meetings. They appeared to have stayed in the guidelines and given us something that I think we should really take into consideration.
Thank you. Carrie.
Maybe I'll reach this one instead. I actually have 3, and I know we're supposed to narrow this down.
Yeah, just one, please.
What? Okay. Out of the one, I think I'm going to choose number 31, the big general area, basically urban reserve, and I'd like to give a little more clarification. I unfortunately missed the ending part of the last meeting, and I just need to hear a little bit more so I feel settled on it.
Just a recommendation. It's already on there if you want to pick another one.
Oh, good. 34 was my other one. Same reasoning. 34? Then we're good to go.
Okay, thanks.
And then 15 was on it too, so I got them all.
You got it. Michael.
I mean, we don't have to choose, everybody doesn't have to choose a new one. I mean, we ended up with 26.
No, they don't have to.
Just, you made it sound like we had to.
Yeah, no,
okay.
You can pass.
Don't have to pick one just for the sake of picking.
You can pass.
Or affirm a prior.
I think, for me, one of the keys to the economic development of the Oroville area was captured in the steering committee for the city meetings, where the adjustment of the city's sphere to come down out of the foothills to give Area 23, which is already going to be opened, some
not
preservation.
Necessarily. Well, only if it gets 10 votes.
Correct, but it's at least up there to discuss. Part of the strategy for accommodating issues that have been brought up about traffic, preservation of the small farms, development of the problems that Southside gears was the adjustment of traffic around town by using the existing railroad crossing at Ophir Road and the railroad, instead of trying to fund a new railroad crossing halfway between there and Oro Dam. And in order to make that strategy work, the city needs to take some of the problems on around Area 26, which is the Southside Las Plumas area. But that's not the one I want to open, because I'm okay with the city's plan on that. What I think we missed was that the full discussion about bringing the sphere down, about capturing the corridor traffic, about clustering the growth along the corridors of Highway 70, Oro Dam Boulevard, Olive Highway, and the Ophir Road corridor around town up to the east side, was that the city was going to adjust their sphere south and west to take in some potential revenue-generating properties that provided a new entry to town, that provided a gateway community. I've seen some more information on that. And I think that not supporting the city's plan and putting this for a specific plan in Area 27, which is the offset financially for taking on Southside, which is a big financial drain, it guts the strategy of the whole Oroville plan. So in analyzing which of the Oroville areas is most important, I want to open up number 27 to have reinforcement for a specific plan in the city of Oroville, where that gateway and that economic engine produces the results of bringing the sphere down, protecting the ag land in the foothills, and paying for taking on Southside. We need all of that. And we flew through 27 saying we don't want anything out there, it's urban sprawl. And I think we didn't have the full picture, a slice of which I've now shared with you as to why that is so important in the whole strategy. So that becomes the camel's back straw, if you will, that needs to be opened back up.
Thank you. Michael.
I would recommend opening back up area number 14 The reason I'd like to look at that again is because of the need for drawing that industrial development area back closer into the town of Chico, city of Chico.
Thank you. Sue?
I've been requested to open 13, but I'm not going to do it because we don't have water, and until we get water, there's no sense in even discussing it.
Thank you. Kate?
I agree on number 27.
Okay. Jason?
I'm glad to see 14 looked at again. However, I'd like to vote for number 10. That's a pre-existing golf course. I think that, and I have some pretty good knowledge that this is not going to exist if there's not homes, and I think we've done an injustice to something we've already valued as an amenity to Butte County, and so I'd like to, number 10.
Thanks. Georgie?
Okay, well, since people want to talk about the Durham-Pence, what's going on in Durham-Pence, because we really see a need for these new short-haul truckers that are now doing the short hauls instead of the long-haul trucking, and the need for great spots right off freeway interchanges. I think we should take a look at 19 again.
Okay. Thanks. Steve?
Since we brought up that we had 14s already, which I think is very important, all I would ask that tonight in the process, if we could get, out of respect of Biggs and Gridley, we had 34, 31 maybe looked at a little earlier in the evening instead at the end, because they came with us a plan that's already, that's something they want done. So just
okay.
From a time point would be great.
Okay. Thanks. Paula?
I would like to reopen area number 23. I think it's a very interesting area. They talk about hobby farming in that area. I think it's an area that needs to develop because it's close to the lake and we have a lot of recreation there, and we continually look at agriculture. I think we ought to look at the possibility of the recreation that's close. I know for a fact that that area has sewer, water, fire, schools. You're only 7 miles from town, 4 miles from the lake. And we've set aside this commercial area on Miners Ranch. And I don't think if we're going to develop it commercially, we need housing, not farms. And I know some of the people here that spoke, and they have 2 or 3 acres, and there's some large areas in that particular area that could be developed for housing because of the sewer. So I would like to reopen 23.
Thank you. Bill?
19.
Any statement?
No.
Okay. Ellen?
Yeah, on Area 17 Durham, it's basically it's going to be developed on prime agricultural zone or agricultural land, and it also is in a flood zone, 100-year flood zone. So I think putting 500 homes instead of 50 homes in those circumstances is something that we should consider.
Okay. Scott?
Well, for those of you who were at the meeting last time when I got overexcited and thought we were talking about paradise.
Let it go.
So, number 5, because there's no water, there's no sewer, the 4-lane road ends at Billy, traffic is a problem, fire is a problem. So I hope when we reopen that, we don't end up with an alternative that says 3,800 homes, and we focus on urban reserve for that area.
Okay. Finally, Brian.
Last but not least, it'll come as no surprise, Area 34. We currently gave it 0 jobs and 400 units for the next 20-something years. So I would like to open it up and vote for the city's plan.
Okay. So are there any study areas not on this list that anyone would like to see on this list? A raise of hands. 1, 2. Okay, Michael?
The intersection at Durham-Pence and 99 has 3 study areas at it. 2 of those study areas have been requested to be brought back up. The third study area was left hanging by a request to verify the location of a relocated road as a consequence of the 149 intersection. We haven't answered that question yet.
Okay.
Do we have the map that I was trying to refer to? And if we do, and we can show it, I think that it's worth bringing back up to see if balancing.
I believe you're referring to study area 18.
Right. Bring 18 up to discuss balancing the uses around that corner to all four corners, which might strengthen shrinking it back to the existing intersection and buttressing the options of leaving more corridor open space north and south of it.
Okay. And Bill?
I just wanted to talk about study area 6. Probably just need clarification, which maybe staff can provide, on where in Stilton Canyon the homes were going to be built in relationship to the access and the egress as they have it now.
We didn't have that in our alternatives, exactly pinned down where that clustering would take place,
right.
but the landowner did submit a proposal, which is simply a proposal, not anything that's written in stone or as zoning or anything like that. But it does show where those homes would be clustered, and I believe you have that material for Stilson Canyon. Jason?
One last question. And I know this is beating a dead horse, and I understand the gavel has dropped from Tim. However, the City of Chico has made a request that we revisit their growth area 1. I want to know how that, if I can submit that as a possible, at least discussion point. Because of those of you who support Belmure know the details of it. Belmure is a difficult place to develop without Chico's growth area 1.
It's just simply not on our agenda. It's not part of our study areas, and it's not something that we are able to discuss.
But as a citizens advisory group, we can't discuss it or take a vote on it to discuss it?
Well, it's not part of our study areas that were approved by the board on November 27th. If you would like to, and your remarks are getting recorded right now, so those remarks will be provided to the Board of Supervisors. Yeah, Tim. Sure.
I mean, this is America, so you guys can speak what you want to speak. I can also tell you I think it's a waste of time, from my opinion. But still, if you want to speak, make your case. See if you get 10 people on board to reopen it. Knock yourself out, I say. Okay.
Could I, Mr. Breen?
Yes, Helene.
Just staying with the city-county partnership, the city of Oroville gave us the handout, and they wanted us to look just briefly at a section of Area 21 and 26. And I think that because we had the city speak, we might want to just take a look at the fire and police services in those areas. It's probably not a large discussion, but if everyone
21
wants. And 26.
26.
It's probably just a small discussion.
Okay. Anyone else before we go on to voting on each of these?
Are we missing any numbers? Should we get another one? Am I missing one? Do we have them all?
I have a question.
Yes.
Study area number 9 is not up there, but one of the.
Yes,
oh
it
yeah.
is.
Okay.
Someone did mention
Got it.
Okay. So the way this will work is we will start voting. Did you guys still?
After a small discussion, they said we could hit 21 and 26 in policy, and I don't mind if it's there either. So you could probably remove it from this section. You were comfortable
It's
with
up
that?
to you.
Yeah, that's comfortable. I'm comfortable.
You want it removed?
Yeah. Thank you.
So take 21 and 26 off. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Alan.
When you do this, could you do them in numerical order so that?
Well, we could, throw that out to the Citizens Advisory Committee as what order you want to take these in if, they are voted into reopening. There was a discussion earlier of having Biggs and Gridley, the area of concern, up front because they kind of had to wait for a long time the last time. So I don't know what the feelings are of the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Reverse order. Sorry.
I'd suggest that as you're going around looking for the 10 votes to reopen, just do that in the order the stuff was brought up so we can remember which one we were talking about, what case people made for it. And then once we've got however many are going to be reopened, I think is there a consensus we
Go
should,
back to Green Bix,
you know?
yeah.
Okay. Well, everyone hopefully remembers the number that they asked to be reopened, and we'll start with Tony. And
Is there such thing as a dumb question?
no.
Okay, good. Since I was told I could only say what numbers were not on there, can we vote for more than one section?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, you're free to vote for any of these as many times as you want. So vote often and vote early. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, can we get started with the voting, or do we have more questions?
Well, we're not going to go around individually. Aren't we going to go
Straw
by
poll.
area and
Yeah.
raise our hands as to whether we
Yeah.
want collectively?
Right, we'll
to
go by
reopen?
study area.
Thank you.
And we'll start with Tony because he started off with study area 29, right? So let's take a straw vote on study area 29, Tony's proposal. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So cross that one off. Okay. Kent, you had 8. Berry Creek. 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay.
There's more than 10.
Everybody's hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got quite a few. So 20. Please hold your hand up high because it's hard to tell what's. So next was Bill, and you nominated 15. So show of hands, please. You counting, Chuck? $15. Next was Harmon, study area 34. $34. Oh. 21. Ed had study area 4. Study area 4. Show of hands.
I was suggesting it to the community association.
Okay. And Emily had study area 9. Show of hands, please. $11. Todd, study area 23. Show of hands.
I'll do it.
13. Bruce, study area 5. One hand only.
But Jeff gave me his proxy.
Okay, Pia, study area 31. Show of hands, please.
Oh, that's, yeah.
You guys want to do it? Okay, I'll do it, Donna.
Can we get him to count from the other direction? Our arms are always getting tired.
Donna, study area 33. Show of hands.
Do we have that already?
Okay. 22.
27? Oh.
John had study area 27. Is that correct?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I skipped somebody then. All right.
It was Mike.
Okay, Mike. Study area 27, show of hands. Okay, study area 14, show of hands. How many? 15. Study area 10, show of hands. Eight.
Hold on, do 10 again.
I'm sorry, I didn't put my hand. You count again.
Okay, let's do it again. Show of hands. Which study area? 10?
Sorry, Jason, I was not paying attention.
Study area 19. Show of hands, please.
19. Hold on. Where's 19? Okay.
Seven. Okay, study area 17. Show of hands.
Well, kind of unclear where we're at on that.
Did it?
All right, study area number 17. Hands up high, please.
I think it's 550.
Okay, study area 18. Show of hands, please. Study area 6, last one, show of hands. Show of hands, please. 4. Okay, so it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 study areas to go over. So
that is more than any given meeting, I believe.
That's quite a few.
Well, I lost my bets. That would end up with like.
I think we can go pretty quickly.
Well, there's 4 of them down in Biggs and Gridley that I would think would go. I mean, there's a few of them that should go quickly, I should say.
Okay, so we're gonna start with Biggs and Gridley. Is everybody in concurrence with that?
Can we start with like 34, 33, 32,
Yes.
and 31 all together?
Yes.
Yes, we can. So Tanya's going to get that up. Yeah. Yes.
It's not listed on the board. That means the recommendation in the printed paperwork tonight stands.
That's right.
There will be no debate, no discussion, no anything going beyond.
Not beyond at the Citizens Advisory Committee level, but at the Planning Commission level on May 9th. Yes.
As of tonight, it's not up there. No more discussion.
Right.
Except for the loose cannons.
So we bring it up at 11.
Okay. Well, Tanya, do you have the slide that shows this area kind of in total, like the area of concern?
And there was some compromise by David Early, that his magic piece, that remember he put everything together with one proposal?
Mm-hmm. Well, we can go over that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and open it up, okay? So we're going to focus on 31, 34. Let's keep that up.
33.
31, 33, 34, 33, and 31. With 34 first? Okay. So the study area 34 was north of Gridley, and the Citizens Advisory Committee's actions were 13, preferred alternative 1, leaving the majority of the area in agriculture, some very low and medium high density residential to allow 300 new homes. We also heard from Andrea Redimonti from the City of Gridley this evening about the City of Gridley's and the City of Biggs idea to they put out on the floor for a urban reserve or an urban reserve policy that would set this area aside until it was appropriately developed by each city. So I'll open up that to the floor if everybody wants to discuss it.
I move that we vote an urban reserve with a large buffer to be decided in a second vote following the success or failure of this vote. Just moving the meeting along.
I propose that we defer to the wishes of the cities involved and adhere to their wishes.
I second.
Okay.
Can I add something to it? I think Jack said he wanted to address the 300-foot setback within those areas too. You might want to throw that in there too, as far as with their urban reserve. I don't know if you can do that, but that would be something to think about.
I believe Heron Landing was given a 94-foot setback, right?
Actually, they had to negotiate, but it was a mitigation. They also had trees and ponds and things like that put in as a buffer. Because the county had no idea, no definition as to what the exemptions were at the time. I would actually, to go along with what Steve was saying, is just ask for what the city's asking for on their map with the ag element lifted for the entire area of concern.
So what do you think about the urban reserve policy?
I'm fine with the urban reserve policy on their map. That's what they're asking for. These little areas, as far as urban reserve, that's fine. But as far as the ag element, I want it exempted from the entire area of concern with what Andrea and Jack mentioned.
Okay, I think what the city was actually proposing was an urban reserve. They do have some urban reserve land internal to their preferred plan. But they would also propose that that entire area be under a county urban reserve so that the county wouldn't come in and develop it in a way that it couldn't comply with if the city wanted to come in and develop. In other words, it would stay as is. It wouldn't be developed by the county until the city came in. So that's what the point from the City of Gridley, if I understood it correctly, was is they wanted to develop the county to develop an urban reserve over the area of concern for their sphere area.
I agree with that, but they're looking for the exemption on that area.
An exemption with the ag buffer.
Of the ag buffer.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
So do I understand that the differences between the votes last time were, A, we didn't have what the city's plan was, and B, it was, should it be developed in the county, which people were afraid would maybe move something forward, and if we had to wait for the city, it'd be forever. But maybe that's now gone away, that concern, and there's more consensus for the city's plan in the city, not in the county, and urban reserve it until the city's ready for it, and then defer to their plan.
Exactly.
And am I correct that now that has resolved most of the differences between our previous vote?
Uh-huh. Yep. So do we have a motion for the floor here on study area 34?
I move we accept the city's plan.
Okay, and that would,
with an urban reserve.
With an urban reserve overlay policy.
Yeah.
By the county.
And that addresses the agricultural setback?
Without an agricultural setback internal to that area.
I second that motion.
Yes.
Okay.
Does that, will the issue of a buffer occur, or is it being waived?
Well, that's up
just, I mean, for the local area, I defer to the people from that area. I completely believe that we should go with what your recommendations are. I still think, even as someone who lives in the Chico area, as the county as a whole, as residents of the county, we should look at a holistic view of it. And towns growing together is something that becomes almost inevitable, and I believe that is the jurisdiction of the county to step in and put policies in place that prevent borders from being lost between towns.
Okay.
And I'm a strong proponent of keeping borders between towns. So
well,
if there's nobody else that seconds that as a friendly amendment, then it's lost. But I would offer that.
Let me just suggest this, Todd, that as an urban reserve, it can run with some policies, and we can have some policies of the counties that will act within that urban reserve. So any urban reserve that's implemented in the county, these are the policies that we'd want to see implemented. So the county would have a say in the particular way that urban reserve functions. So
I'd like to second his friendly amendment.
So moved and seconded. If I could just reiterate what Dan just said about the policies, I think things like the separation, revenue sharing, those kinds of issues will be the kinds of things we'll discuss in Workshop Series 5 when we set the policies that go along with the preferred alternative. So I don't think you have to feel like you have to answer all the questions tonight. Your discussion will help us draft some of those policies now, so it is good, but don't feel like you need to nail down everything tonight.
But wait, sir.
Okay.
Policies about revenue sharing or the like, I could see that as something apart from a general plan designation. But if we're going to lay a general plan designation on and say we're going to keep it the general ag thing that it is now, and we're going to designate an urban reserve for development by annexation by the cities. I think that you need to specifically call the question about a buffer or a separator and deal with that specifically, rather than say, we could get to that after you vote for it. We could amend it later in a policy thing. I think you put it on the table and you deal with it or not. I don't think that's a policy amendment asterisk to put on it later.
And I would disagree with John.
Okay, Bruce?
This is a general plan, and I think those jurisdictions have the right, and I think they will come to a conclusion that they want to be separated and have, in their own way, be able to identify what exactly that separation may be, whether it's a buffer, whether it's a railroad track, and that's a joke, whatever it may be. So I would like to leave it up to them.
Yeah, so you would agree with me. I'm not saying that, I'm not arguing for a buffer. I'm arguing against the idea that a buffer finds its way in later in some policy discussion.
Okay. So you want to build it in right now? Is that what you're saying?
No, I would say if somebody wants to build it in right now, then they should propose it, but we shouldn't vote on it and get an overlay, and then later it turns into something that we didn't vote for.
Right. Well, we do have, John, we have a whole meeting series that we will be talking about policy. And I think we can visit the urban reserve issue again during meeting series 5.
No, we're talking about urban reserve as a designation we're going to lay on this thing right now on these areas, right? Okay. Now, I'm all for that, But Tim's point about, you can fine tune what urban reserve means and whether or not there's a buffer in a policy thing later. I think you want to keep us clear of situations where we're voting for one thing and you tell us later that it got amended and that's not what we voted for.
Okay. Well, there's going to be some of that because as the policies are developed and the goals are developed in meeting series 5, it will play out that some adjustments are going to need to be made to the preferred alternative that's chosen. So
I propose we vote on this.
Okay. Well, okay. What do you want to propose?
Let's vote it. Make it easy. Do a two-part. So you can just pass the whole thing possibly, and then see if there's the votes there for a buffer. If not, then we just move on.
So 2 stages. One was just straight urban reserve, and another alternative with a buffer with an urban reserve.
I think he's looking for successive vote on it.
I was looking for not split vote, but successive vote.
I would go with the first proposal, which was to accept the city's recommendations.
Okay.
Supervisor Johansson said at the meeting that they had out there, do you want the county to tell you that you're going to have the buffer, or will you get it together to the cities, to the two cities? So I think they will.
I fully believe it is within the prerogative of the county to make policy decisions like that, and it was seconded.
I'll call for the question.
Okay.
If we want to put procedure, we have a motion and a second on it. Let's go for the vote. Let's
Bruce had something to say, and he was kind of waving his hands, and he didn't get to do it. So
I want a clarification on limiting the agricultural setback. What are they proposing? In the study area?
Right.
You don't have an agricultural setback?
That's
and
correct.
If the area is not annexed for 20 years, you haven't had that setback for 20 years? I can't support that.
Well, it wouldn't have an ag setback it would have an ag setback while it was retained in the county, but would not when urban development was developed by the cities. So it wouldn't influence urban level development later on.
Okay,
But it would be in place while the county had jurisdiction, while it was an urban reserve and while it was undeveloped.
Okay, thanks.
Right, and there is a distinction here that's important to draw, that there are ag buffers that would be applicable where that urban land in the area of concern is a boundary between commercial ag and urban land, and that buffer would be imposed upon the urban side of that boundary. So that wouldn't go away. What would go away is the buffers internally in that area.
I'm very familiar with Program 2.2.
Okay. So hopefully everybody understood that. It gets a little complex.
And if I can say, just to make it really simple, I think it's a foregone conclusion we're voting for the urban reserve designation. I was just saying as a second vote, just an up and down between the group, whether there's the vote to do the buffer.
You want to do that now?
After the first vote.
Okay, let's do a first vote now. Ready? Show of hands for an urban reserve designation. And are we simply talking study area 34, or are we talking the whole thing? We're going to take care of them all?
Let's throw the other two in also.
Yeah. Okay.
The cities, it was this proposal that they gave us tonight. That was my motion. And the urban reserve.
Okay. Without the buffer internally.
How many, Chuck?
What did you say? 23 votes.
No, 22 of us here.
And that's for all.
Two hands went up somewhere. Maybe there is.
So, where do we want to go from here? Do you want a second vote? Is that what you said?
Just see if there's a majority to overlay a buffer on that prior.
Okay, let's have a vote on, and now this would be a buffer, not the ag buffer, but a buffer between the two communities?
Yeah.
Okay.
With no definition of a buffer?
Looks like what?
Just have a buffer and then you make the size later?
That would be under the policies and zoning.
Okay.
And Todd, when they come in with the golf course, are you going to be okay with that?
We'll just deal with that when we get there.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let's have a show of hands to modify this urban reserve with a policy from the county to apply a buffer between the cities of Gridley and Biggs.
See, I told you that'd be easy.
Yes.
4 votes.
Yep. Told you it'd be sweet and easy.
Yeah. 4 and against on this last one? Or any? Okay, well, we could take an against vote on a. Okay, let's go with the urban reserve policy and the city's plans. Any votes against that? Any votes against? Any votes against a community separator or buffer between Gridley and Biggs?
Imposed by the county?
Imposed by the county.
Imposed by the county.
How did we get?
I need clarification on what it is you're asking.
Okay. We right now we're voting. We're asking for who would not support a community separator imposed by the county within this urban reserve when development took place by the cities. In other words, the county would impose a separator somehow. Golf course. Any other suggestions? Greenway, parks, equestrian trails, bike trails that would separate the two communities.
So the county would proceed the city's wishes. Is that what?
Well, that's essentially
You're
what.
asking the opposite question as you just
How
did,
about if
right?
I just withdraw my motion from back a ways and we just
Okay.
move on?
Keep it where it was.
All right. So where do we want to go?
Let's do the math.
Nowhere. We finished.
All right.
To the next study area.
Where are we at?
Let's do 31 and 33 together.
Just did them all.
Yeah, do them all. Just mark them out.
Well,
I suggest we look
I thought we covered all the study areas in the area of concern. 31, 33, and 34.
We agree.
Okay.
So you can cross those off. And we're going to take them in order from here, right?
I
We
propose
will take them in order that they were drawn up on this piece of paper. Would that be easiest for everybody?
Yep.
Any objections to that? Okay, so we're moving on to study area 8, which is Berry Creek.
Can we review the last alternative that we passed?
Yeah, I will do that. 16, prefer alternative 2, which leaves the majority of the area in agriculture. Not a significant number of new homes. 10, preferred alternative 1. Majority of area very low density residential, allows about 300 new homes. All agree that the retail and the retail from alternative 1 should remain. And this, Tanya, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was the commercial node with a circle. It was kind of an undefined commercial blob designated by our county general plan. So there was no specific area where that would apply. So there you have it. Any discussion?
I have a Dan? Yeah, I think you had a fourth alternative proposed tonight, which maybe we could rediscuss that, or maybe have the speaker re-propose it.
It's
well,
B43 on here.
Well, we could open it up to Alan. Are you asking for the speaker to come back up and talk about his preferred alternative?
I think the alternative 4 made a lot of sense to me, especially since it was representative of the community, of what the community wanted.
But okay, and you have that proposal in your materials. Does everybody need some time to find that proposal? That proposal that was distributed by Roger Cutler from the Berry Creek Association.
Didn't the issue of changing the dimensions, the size of this come up earlier?
Yes, it did come up.
And the gavel came down, did it not? Or was it not? Was it just like a little hammer and not a gavel?
It left your hands as a larger area, much in the same shape as Mr. Cutler described.
I think the literature we got this tonight, it's on the blue on a blue page.
Okay.
B4 with 2 little dots. B4 with 1 1.
Yeah. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Planning Commission went ahead and approved it with that enlarged size, but the Board of Supervisors knocked it back down on November 27th to that size that we see now.
Alternative 4 is on the second page.
I do want to open up an idea of bringing in speakers. Now, I don't know how the Citizens Advisory Committee feels about this. Do we want to bring in more people to speak, or do you feel like you have enough information in front of you to make an informed decision? Because many folks have provided you with these materials, but if we start opening up to more speakers, there'll be lots more speakers to come.
I'd like more speakers.
Okay.
Okay, and may I ask, I would prefer not to, if staff had a clear understanding of what this alternative 4 was and was able to tell us, because the speakers have been up there, have addressed they addressed it pretty clearly. I think if staff can tell us what it is they want, I'd like to go with that. If they can't, then I agree. We have to return to speakers.
I can't tell you what they want. It's their proposal. So
isn't it in your? It's in your paper here. They've got alternative 4. If you look under B4 with the 2 little ones after it, it's on the back of the first page.
And it's several pages.
Okay. So
no, you look in the back of the first page.
All right. Would you like to let Mr. Cutler speak about this? Is that what I'm hearing?
I just have a question on whether alternative 4 was with the original boundaries, or is he asking for the increased boundaries that were already denied?
Well, he is asking for increased boundaries, and that'll certainly go into the record. And we could hear from Citizens Advisory Committee members on that. But we have not changed any boundaries of any study areas throughout this process. The only people that could do that is, of course, the Board of Supervisors. So, but you can make a recommendation on that.
Can they give us data under this criteria that matches what they're asking, though, under the boundaries that are already approved?
Could you?
On the boundaries, instead of, they want other boundaries, on the boundaries that you have right there in front of us.
Right.
Can they match their data to those boundaries instead of like
that'd be a question. I can't answer that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Cutler could probably do that if you wanted him to. Yes, Bruce.
Yeah, I spoke with Mr. Cutler during the break, and alternative 4 seems to be very, very close to the majority that whatever we voted for. Alternative 2, No, actually, it's alternative one, so I think we need to hear him speak a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I second that. Go ahead.
All right. Roger, if you want to elaborate briefly, I would say no more than 3 minutes, please.
Why couldn't he just respond to questions instead of elaborations again?
Oh, you can respond to questions as well.
That would.
That's no problem.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. On the question of study area, we acknowledge the Board of Supervisors has the final say. The Berry Creek Community Association went to the Planning Commission. They concurred with enlarging the area. We took the proposal to the board. They turned it down. We've been encouraged to go back to the board. Tonight I am asking, can we also have the support of this Citizens Advisory Committee in asking for the larger study area? You have the best of all worlds. You get to ask for it, and you're not responsible for the consequences. So could we have your support in enlarging our study area to the natural boundaries? That's question one. And then I'll respond to any questions you have about alternative.
Are you asking for more commercial or retail there besides that circle?
No. We're suggesting that it just be distributed along major roads and not find its way into residential areas. Your question about what gets excluded if she left. She's coming back. Your question about the difference in statistics, this rectangle cuts out one of our fire stations that serves our area, so I would have to delete that from the description. The description is based on the assumption of the larger study area. Obviously, the number of new housing units in the next 20 years would be reduced, and so forth. But it's not a substantial difference between the smaller size and the larger size as far as the quality of what we are trying to accomplish. The larger size simply gives us a voice in the development of the natural area as defined by the arms of the Feather River. And we have an occasion where there's a small subdivision out in the middle of the forest somewhere, no access roads. It got developed, and we want to prevent that kind of development. We want a planned and orderly process. Alternative 4 lets us come to the table and work with the Planning Commission, work with the Board of Supervisors, and come up with something that's reasonable for maintaining our rural community up there.
I would propose we break those up into two parts again and address the size and area issue, and then come back. Bruce has indicated that the other characteristics are approximately the same to what we already voted on, so we could break it up and address.
We tried to blend alternatives 1 and 2. You were split on that, and we're simply articulating that it be rural residential, and it gives us the flexibility to better balance out the development in our area.
Approximately how many new units would this alternative 4 allow?
It's proposing, it's at the current rate of new construction. If we extrapolate it out, it would be fewer than 300 homes in the next 20 years. You don't need to make a mountain out of Berry Creek, really.
Thank you, Roger. I don't have a question for you. I just want to think out loud with everybody and help me here for a second. If Berry Creek was incorporated, you'd have a master plan, and we'd all be saying, we like your plan. You're not incorporated. You're too small. Okay, you want to stay that way. Shift gears for a second. Is D2N a neighborhood plan?
It's an area plan.
It's an area plan.
Right.
We haven't used the area plan tool to apply to any area. Let's talk about that. This may be a perfect candidate for something like an area plan. I don't want to say a specific plan because that's not what I'm talking about. Too many property owners, too lengthy of a process. We're not trying to plan an area for a bunch of new development. We're almost unplanning an area for very little new development. But an area plan would be a possible tool, and I'm open to staff's help on coming up with another tool if it would be better, wherein our recommendation to the board is give these people a chance to work out how they want to proceed in their area. If they were a city, they'd have our blessing for whatever their plan is. They're not. They don't have a plan other than this loose meshing of two alternatives that were intended to be bookends for a conversation to maybe get all possibilities. What their possibilities that they've come down to are many of the policy-oriented things that we're going to continue to discuss. So is it possible that they can come to the table under the need for an area plan that, as we uncover our policies, will strengthen their ability to form their own destiny? Is that something that the group feels would be an appropriate vehicle for Berry Creek?
Well, I would ask if just simply expanding the boundaries to the ones they got shot down on by the supervisors. I mean, there's the issue of the boundary, then there's the issue of the alternative that's put forward.
Right.
The kind of working, I don't remember what the reason was at the supervisors meeting where they said no, go with different boundaries. Was there something that made sense about that? Or?
Well, I think the study area concept was to focus on areas that were realizing some amount of change, or at least there was some amount of change being proposed. And there was a little bit of change being proposed in Berry Creek, but it didn't match the size of the study area. So I think that was the motivation to decrease the size of it.
But the commission thought it was a good idea, but then the supervisors
right.
didn't. Yeah, I think with that going on, Mike, I don't know where an area plan and a more sophisticated approach is going to take us.
I don't either, but I'm willing to let them decide.
Yeah. Well, I think we have two kind of threads here. We have an idea about an area plan that we could certainly have the Citizens Advisory Committee vote on and pass that vote on to the Planning Commission, or we could vote on the area, option 4 for consideration. Does anybody else want to throw anything else out between those two?
The one thing that we haven't addressed is the little blue or the purple dot, right? Which we did in Bangor, and that was one of the issues that he brought up, is retail in appropriate places. So we could tack that on to.
Yeah.
You don't want to do the area.
Wherever you want to focus that commercial development.
That would be a minimum of
you could do that as a kind of a modification of their plan 4, alternative 4, perhaps.
Or as a modification of what we voted on last time.
That's right.
Because we didn't define it before because we just chose ag, so we didn't have to. So what I'm understanding is what they want is alternative 1, but downzoned from VLDR to rural residential and expanded to meet the borders that they're talking about. Because there is a retail component in there and everything. Would that be a correct?
Yeah.
Is that what number 4 is?
Yeah,
essentially?
Well, then,
okay, so it's number 4 is number 1, expanded to match the geographical area and downzone to rural residential.
Okay, you want to take a vote on that?
I'm not making it as a motion. I'm thinking that's what they're asking.
So moved on that.
Second.
That's okay.
Hold on.
I like that, and I'd like to have some methodology of taking that very limited commercial zone, which on our existing general plan is the concept of commercial in that area, not specifically under that dot, and eliminate that concept and say there is a corridor along Bald Rock Road and Laurel Quincy Highway in the general area within that boundary where there is appropriate parcels. Don't know where they are exactly. I have an idea, but that's too much minutia. That needs to have some expanded ability to have commercial services.
Okay, so you said Bald Rock Road.
Well, the Bald Rock Road and the Laurel Quincy Highway are the two corridors. Do you agree with that, Roger? So
you would see, instead of that just node, more of a corridor.
Well, I think they have some idea that maybe during their planning efforts with the board, if they go forward with their community association and maybe an area plan where they can define that, they're asking for expanded commercial because that concept of a red dot as we have it under the current plan isn't specific enough for them, and it is apparently very limiting in their mind. And they don't want to preclude the ability of other corridor parcels to have commercial. So if we were to be in meeting series 5, we might have a concept, a policy that says any proposed commercial be limited to within 300 feet of one of those A or B roads. But we're not there yet. So how can we give them the comfort that they're going to have some commercial ability, they're going to go to the rural residential, whether it's really, if we expand the area, we're actually giving more development to the area that's not in that green than we would be if we limited to the green. Because now most of the area outside that might be 40 or 160 acre parcels.
But
not to confuse
what
anybody.
I understand is on the table is an alternative number 4, and Michael, I mean, they're asking rural residential for properties to be developed, etc. Other lands not suited to residential development, etc. We recommend that 20 acres be designated for retail commercial in the very areas you just talked about. So are you really proposing something other than what they have in their written statement?
No, I'm just looking for a way to confirm that they're not stuck to a circle as we show it.
Oh.
And we don't know exactly where it's going to be, but the idea is that it's along those two corridors.
Yeah, and the whole idea, I think, with some familiarity with our existing general plan, was that the circles were a very general kind of designation. It wasn't meant to say this is where commercial is going to happen, but somewhere in this vicinity of Berry Creek, we can allow some commercial through implementation of zoning. So that's what those circles are all about. And they give you some latitude in the general plan that maybe specifically designating areas do not.
So, Dan, now that we're really educated and not smarter on this whole thing, can we still vote on alternative 4 and move on?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Would you like to vote on alternative 4?
Well, Dan,
let's vote as proposed. Okay.
You need to have alternative 1, alternative 2, and alternative 4 on the vote, just like we had choices on the at the previous meeting.
Okay.
So
let's start with 4.
Well, that's fine, but that's what needs to be thrown out there is what we voted on before and this new one.
Very good. Okay, so let's start with voting on the Berry Creek Association's alternative number 4. And are you tallying this, Chuck? Hands up high. $16. So are we doing an against vote? Are we doing that tonight?
No, you're taking
okay.
your vote, your alternative 1 and alternative 2.
All right, so we'll do alternative 2, which is what we voted for last time.
Yes.
That was for 1.
We voted for number 4.
Last time there wasn't.
There was no 4.
No, just now. No, he's
oh,
just now.
Okay. Sorry.
He's okay.
And it wasn't in Paradise either.
Magalia.
Okay, shall we go with alternative 2 now? Or alternative 1? Which is your preference?
2.
Okay, all right, we'll just do it. The preferred alternative from the last meeting was alternative 2.
Do we need to do that if we have a majority?
Super majority?
Yeah, I think we should just vote. So we'll vote on alternative 2. Chuck? That's right.
How many did you have on that?
There's 5.
Okay.
Good luck, guys. Will you be ready for Planning Commission? Okay.
And next. Alternative 1.
Yes.
Hands held high, please. Alternative 1. None?
No, Bill's going.
1.
Oh, there was one.
Okay. Are we done with Berry Creek?
Yeah, move on.
Thank you. All right.
Did we expand this?
I think, the 4 was also inclusive of expanding the study area. So that will be directions to the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. Did everybody understand that?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So where are we at? We're on study
9.
area number. Is that 15? Okay. So this is the Hamlin Canyon and Highway 99 study area. And last time, the Citizens Advisory Committee chose the preferred plan, which was 10 in support of Alternative 4, which was the proponent's proposal for 400 acres of industrial, research, and business park along Highway 99 in Durham, Pence. 7 supported modified Alternative 1. This includes retaining the existing M1 zoning as it is currently in place by the general plan.
Would you please put it on the screen?
Yeah. Can Tanya or someone, can you bring up study area 15? And 2 supported Alternative 1, all ag, no M1, no light industrial. So there we have the preferred alternative that was acted upon
Is there
on
a
the
way to
24th.
have that map show it so it shows 15, 18, 19, or whatever that is, that intersection? Can we do something that shows?
The intersection further south.
I mean, I know we're talking about 18 later on.
We'll talk about 18 and the other 19. Those are both going to be discussed, I believe.
Hey, Georgie, if you have 19's proposal from last week, that is a fold-out map that shows the entire area.
Okay, thank you. I got it.
Okay. All right. That didn't get voted for. All right. So we won't be talking about 19 tonight.
No, I'm just saying the map in there is a good one that shows the whole area.
I got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Is that correct? Let's make sure, because
that's correct.
19 did not receive 10 votes, correct?
That's correct.
All right.
So why are we talking about this one?
Yes.
It's not on.
Let's
I
open
know,
up.
why are we talking about this one?
Let's open the discussion up, please.
It's that intersection on the Bill, you want to go, or what do you want to do?
Well, I already spoke my thoughts on it. 15 people voted to discuss it. I'll move to leave it ag. I don't know the alternative that would have been from the time before.
It was alternative 1.
In other words, it's alternative something now.
Right. Alternative
with with some kind of a park, an industrial area, and I would say to put it to.
Yeah.
I thought we were after some reasons here, and
right.
I'm not.
Please offer some reasons.
I offered my reasons when I said everyone that has come forward from the public and spoke about maintaining open spaces, everybody believes that this is like the viewshed is the what Butte County is famous for. Just because there's an interchange there doesn't mean every interchange has to be developed into some kind of a shopping mart, gas station corner. There's the notions about University Research Park are very vague. Everybody here has a different concept of what that is, and at a minimum, we should be waiting to vote until we get some kind of someone to speak about what exactly a University Research Park is. And on top of all of the view, there's the issue of the view shed, there's the issue of the habitat, and we voted to maintain all of the other corners there last time. That might change, but last time we voted to keep that open without development. Those are my reasons.
I got some reasons. The principal reason would be that, it's sort of a dumb idea to try to develop a research park in what's been identified as a high priority vertical recovery area. I'm sorry, but the feds are kind of touchy about that. They wouldn't let UC Merced do it. They wouldn't let 2 governors and a bunch of regents say, oh, could we maybe do that? They said no. So in an area that's up on that map as in the core vernal pool recovery area, you know, I mean, that overlay is all over that piece of ground. Now, as a second point, usually a private property owner that was looking to change the general plan designation that's in an impacted area with federal jurisdiction, what you would usually have to do is spend about $500,000 on a set of phone books and an EIR and an application for a general plan thing that does all the study work and says, it's really complicated, Mr. and Mrs. Fed, will you let me change this? And what we're doing here is we're committing the county taxpayers to do that kind of study in our EIR for the general plan for an area that we have a pretty good idea we're going to get stuffed on. So I don't know why we're taking on a private burden at a public cost on an area that, if we do our homework and look at what's on the maps, we'll recognize as a boondoggle. Apart from that, I think it's a swell idea.
Okay. Dan?
Thanks. Yes.
Is John right in this sense? Is John right that if we were to designate this area for potentially a research park and for research park zoning, then the county has to provide the funds up front to do the EIR? Is that true?
Well, I think I'm going to defer that question because I am not familiar with the Habitat Conservation Plan process. And Chuck, maybe you could swing an answer to that one about how that works.
I think Tim's trying to whisper a couple ideas in my ear, too. First of all, general plan, we need to understand that it is just that, it's general. As much as we'd probably like to come up with specific plans for each of the study areas, we're not going to do that through this process. What will be prepared as part of this general plan will be a programmatic environmental impact report. That's essentially the top layer as you're looking through the CEQA hierarchy of what starts out with the general plan, works its way through implementation such as zoning, which will be covered through our ER as well. But specific plans that may come along later, or specific development approvals which would result in potentially take of listed species, will have to be addressed. Now, the program EIR will have to look at the potential, but there could be mitigation such as avoidance, compensation. There's the Habitat Conservation Plan, Natural Conservation Communities Plan that BCAG is currently developing. Will have a conservation strategy, and we'll also identify mitigation for what would be take of the listed species, of which I believe vernal pool will be included as well as...
Well, I understand that, but the question is, who bears the cost?
The developer will ultimately bear the cost in terms of mitigation. We'll be addressing it on a programmatic...
But the HCP will take on the cost of the investigation or the research.
They will address it likewise on a somewhat programmatic scale. They won't go out and map every single vernal pool occurrence.
But either will this EIR.
That is absolutely correct.
So
thank you.
Okay.
So HCP says, hey, you better go study this, right?
Well, actually, the HCP did map all the vernal pools down to, Pia, what was the square footage that we ended up with? Something like 20 square feet?
We have...
I thought it was 3 meters.
We have delineations of vernal pools and swales down to with heads up images and heads down images. And every vernal pool has been mapped with a line around it. And that's already been done. And I know that this property is under a lot of microscopes because it is so valuable for the natural communities. And as long as I'm talking, I'll just keep talking. I think, and again, this is my opinion, we have probably one of the most scenic corridors in the North State, just coming up from Oroville to Chico. And that corridor along the highway there is something that defines us as a community. It's under tremendous pressure to develop, but it has casinos proposed, it has industrial parks, it has a lot of pressure because it is one of the thoroughfares of the state. But if we think back on what we want to leave as a legacy for future generations, I think this corridor is one that we very, very much want to preserve. And by chunking it off, we're opening up that real estate to just go in pieces, and we can't say no to a casino if we say yes to all the other development along the corridor. And so the development breaks up that corridor, and that view shed, we can put industrial parks in other areas of the county. Oroville wants to have it. Biggs is getting some industries. I want the jobs too. I understand that we need the jobs, but I think in the long-term perspective, this corridor needs absolute protection, and this is something that we can leave as a legacy for the CAC.
If the last meeting or the one before, I don't know, didn't you say that one of these pieces of property along there was a major recharge area? And I don't remember which one it was.
I think, there's now differing discussions, but for as long as I've been attending meetings and the foothill regions all up and down this corridor have been mapped as potential recharge areas. Whether somebody's going to come out and say, this square foot is a recharge area, they're not going to do that. But the recharge areas is along this corridor, and this is where the species of special interests are, and this is where our primary view shed of the county is. And for me, this corridor is what we can actually, one of the most valuable things we have, not only in terms of views, but natural resources, and I would very, very much plead to have this corridor saved.
In the comments from DC&E, they said that moderate and high potential recharge.
Yeah. And I want to make a comment that similar to the area to the north, where the supervisor, some of the topography with the vernal pools, the supervisors removed a few parcels there, not dissimilar to this. I think it was Dan Courts and some of those other areas, all to the north, were on our plan earlier, all removed at the supervisor level because of some of these same issues that John's brought up.
Well, that was the one where they said, look, it's speculative. If the property owner wants to do a detailed environmental study and propose it, let them do it on their dime and not on the county's. So.
Yes, Kate.
I'm finding it's a little bit challenging because I think I'm hearing the same arguments that I heard last week when we voted on it, but I don't have the benefit of the landowner speaking. As I recall, he talked about the beauty of having such a large piece of land to work on. So I'm just a little challenged. We had a vote of 10-7 to 2. It's sort of hard to revisit the whole thing without having all the public comments.
No, we've had public comments. We're deliberating. We're bringing it up again.
Well,
we're talking about it.
It's a week later, though.
I think I wasn't here for the vote, but I think one of the things I read was I think this is a couple thousand acres. Is that
Yeah.
true?
No,
A couple thousand. 400. I mean, no. But I mean the whole thing. He's got a couple thousand acres there, and so that's kind of it. You're just saying to him, okay, you have to sit on a couple thousand acres and grow grass so we can see how beautiful the buttes are, and keep that as open space. I mean, that's what we're really saying to them.
No, you've got to take on the feds to do anything there, and it's not realistic to take industrial development that should be happening in incorporated areas, places that we're saying we think that jobs ought to be, put it out in the middle of nowhere. The tabulation was 9,300 jobs out there with nobody living anywhere near it. Everybody drives out there when those jobs are needed in Oroville, when those jobs are needed in Biggs.
Yeah, and I think the same argument was made when they put Butte College here, that people would have to drive here, not live here. But
so we're going to compound a mistake with another mistake?
No. I just know that Chico State has spent months, years. They've all been talking about this. It's been on the table with all the departments talking about this. Maybe it's a mistake, but I'm just saying a lot of people have worked on this idea of this research park in this area.
But the only one that's left at the table is some college kid. Linscheid, Lando, North Star, all those guys peeled off when they saw what a boondoggle it was. They're not at the table anymore.
Could I ask a question?
Okay,
Dan?
yes, Scott.
I mean, if I were the developer's representative right now, I'd be having serious heartburn.
They all are.
Well,
that's not our job.
I understand it's not our job. And one point I hear people making is that a developer can always come forward to the county, but they need to do the EIR. And maybe it'll turn out to be a fantastic idea, but part of what I hear some of my colleagues saying is what they would like to do is to assure that whatever happens out there, we leave it as it is in order that the developer do an EIR. A research park may or may not be a great idea. We don't quite know that yet. It may hold a lot of promise. It might not. This might be the best location. There might be a better location. We don't know that. And yeah, I agree. It really is challenging in terms of the biology. And I think we've also heard from the developer's representative that they recognize that there are significant issues relating to the biodiversity out there. John has also made the point it's going to be tough. But then wouldn't we take the position instead of saying, you know, we don't really think this is going to work, so we push it back on the developer to assume all of the cost of the EIR and leave it as it is presently zoned?
Thank you. Okay.
Well, wait, but that's not how the vote went last time.
Well,
it went the other way.
Well, we don't have any new proposals on the table right now.
Well, I make a motion that we zone the whole thing agriculture and encourage the landowners to look at alternative economic ways of making this property work.
Okay, so that's alternative one. Is all ag.
Alternative one includes 52 acres of industry, which is presently zoned for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh.
And I think I had made the alternative for a new alternative at the last meeting that we remove even that bit of 50 acres of
okay, it sounds like we still have the same sort of breakdown as we had last time with respect to the alternatives. We had a modified alternative one that would include the existing M1 designation as currently designated in the general plan, and then there was alternative one not modified, all ag, no M1.
Right, and
all ag.
And then there was alternative 4, which was the landowner's alternative.
Yeah.
So those are the three that we have on the table. Does anybody have any new suggestions or want to throw anything else out?
Well, I just my notes show that the alternative 4 was voted 10.
Right.
Alternative 1 was voted 7. But in
Correct.
the discussion tonight, I hear it going the other direction completely.
Well, we can take another
from
vote.
the same people that were there and voting. So there were 17 people there last time. Now there's 23 or 24, maybe 25 people here.
Well, there was 19 people because there was 2 that supported alternative 1, all ag, no M1.
So it was in some ways, Bill, it was really, it's not, excuse me, it's not surprising it came back up tonight because it was essentially a 9-10 vote last week.
Got it.
So, you know, with a slight differentiation between the two. And even though you could say, well, they could vote together and overturn, whatever, the supervisors, I think David Early had indicated, and so had staff, supervisors kind of look at lump numbers as well, not just the absolute majority.
Also the preferred alternatives are going to turn into a map that says this is the aggregated, all glued together majority vote thing, and then the supervisor is going to disassemble it and look at it in pieces.
Well, it doesn't sound like we're too far off, so
We have a map like that,
call for the
actually,
question.
right over here. Okay, let's vote on alternative 4.
Which is?
Which is what we've heard currently.
It's the proponent's proposal, 400 acres industrial research and business park along Highway 99 in Durham, Pence. Can we have a show of hands? This is alternative 4. 13, you said? 13. Okay. This is modified alternative 1, which includes the existing M1 designation as currently designated by the general plan. That stays. But the rest is all ag. So let's take a vote on that. 50 acres or something. Yeah. Okay, vote please. Two? Okay, and alternative 1, all ag, no industrial. Seven.
So it stayed the same?
That one stayed.
Oh, we have 13 for alternative 4. We had 10 last time. 7 for alternative 1 modified, and 2 alternative 1 not modified. Next study area. Thank you. What is the next study area? Number 9. Study area number 9, which is the Doe Mill and Honey Run Road study area. And I'll go through what the CAC's actions were on April 24th. 9 preferred alternative 4. That was the project proponent's proposal to allow up to 1,500 new units through a specific plan. Agriculture would be the underlying designation. Project would happen under the county's auspices, okay, in the county.
It could happen under the county auspices.
That's project would happen.
Would.
Yes, would. Okay, 5, support alternative 5. Program proposed under alternative 4, but project would happen under the city of Chico's auspices, okay, annexed into the city of Chico. 3 supported modified alternative 2. Some development program as alternative 4, but development would be concentrated in the northwest portion of the study area. Are you taking over for Chuck? Okay. All right, so I'm not sure who was the person who voted this in. Emily, okay. Emily, would you like to kick it off?
I guess my concern with alternative 4 was the potential for. It's a lovely proposal, but I think we need to be really careful around the creek and where the development happens in this study area. And I felt like not the very northwest corner, but the intersection there of 20th Street and Potter. It's right next to existing development that's fairly high density, and that would be a logical place for some good density development, and the rest could be resource conservation to protect the creek.
That was the northwest corner, you said, right?
Yeah, just down a little bit, the little dogleg there.
There is density at Doe Mill, but as you move farther east in Jerry Tucker's development, it changes in grade, in density. And I don't believe the project has any proposal to go over into Butte Creek Canyon. So,
okay.
I'm just saying if development were to happen there, that would be a logical, of all the rest of the study area, that would be a more logical spot for smart, concentrated development.
No, I'm saying that the density has already changed from a smart growth to medium to low. And I think their proposal is another gradient into what they have as a specific plan.
I think Emily is saying there was alternative 1 was for medium density along that edge, the northwestern edge. And the developer's plan, I think, was more for lower development across the whole area. And Emily's argument is for concentrating the growth next to the city now and kind of leaving it open and grow into it type of a thing. But I have a question. The salmon guy, where is Butte Creek on that? I mean, where does it? Can't you draw a line on
part in the bottom south?
And then the ground is going which way they're...
There's a split. That's the bottom of the road, so it goes up on the ridge and then down, back down.
Yeah, it actually directly abuts it in a small area, but the watershed slope may be more of an issue. But the property itself abuts it only in a very small area.
But I think one of the things that was specific in here is they had it so that it had like a specific plan that had to be designed and approved and stuff. So I think if you want to make it that one of the conditions for that specific plan is that they take into consideration when they do their layout and their specific plan of where the housing would be or the parks and stuff would be, that they take into consideration that runoff that you're concerned about that would go to the east, that would go down to the road and then eventually go down to the Butte Creek.
Yeah, I guess I just wasn't really keen on the impact of that specific plan, however it...
Emily, how would you modify Alternative 4 to your liking? Would you have a proposal there?
Well, I liked my modified Alternative 2.
A modified Alternative 2. Same development as Alternative 4, but development would be concentrated in northwest portion.
I'm not sure that that states it exactly how...
Okay. Want to reformulate that?
Here. There's Alternative.
I think the salmon guy's point also, while she's formulating, was that it isn't like designing the runoff and sewage systems and stuff. It's like fertilizers on your yard, oil and your, changing oil, and just the general things that occur when you move into an area, as opposed to, because we've already been pitched that there are permeable surfaces and all that stuff. But his point was just the general population residing there results in things that
additional
are
runoff. Okay, John.
Well, I think that the developers been quite vocal about looking to do a specific plan that is sensitive to the environmental issues on the land. And I think that most of our disagreement about this was not over whether or not the plan with this many units and a general plan designation that would support it, or that this development would happen or not. It was a question of should it be required to happen under annexation into the city, or should it happen in the county? And I think that's probably the rub. To Emily's point about concentrating the development close to adjacent infrastructure and everything else, kind of at the 3,000-foot level it makes sense, but on the ground, right across the street from that corner at Doe Mill and Potter Road is a metaphone preserve on the same soils and hydrology as what's up in that upper area. So there's a lot of species stuff to sort through. There's watershed issues to deal with and everything else. That is the area where the Phantom School that we may not need would go. But I think that the idea that it goes out with a specific plan, there was at least rough consensus over that. And I think that the point of decision for us would likely be between, okay, do a specific plan but do it in the city, or do a specific plan and you could do it in the county if you want. And I think that being able to boil it down to choosing between those two things and sending a clear message would be a clear decision to the supervisors. I don't think that they're in a hurry to repeat the adventure of the North Chico specific plan. Okay. Not from nothing from you guys on the staff, but come on,
Okay.
Okay, and the way I understand it, if I could just interject, is that we voted to discuss this. We didn't necessarily vote that we were going to change anything. And I'm just wondering if there's a proposal on the floor. I haven't even heard that.
Right.
It sounds like we're just discussing the same things that we've already discussed.
Yeah, Emily was going to modify perhaps her.
Yeah, I realize that the number of units in that proposal, that alternative, was very high, and for the size of the area that would seem appropriate for any development.
The 1,500 you're saying is high?
It's 3,000.
The proposal was 1,500.
1,500.
Yeah.
1,500.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, but to Bill's point, if we voted to reopen, that means we can vote again, even if it's on the same points.
Absolutely.
As long as there's a motion and a second, I'm assuming that's how I haven't heard a motion.
But I think there's a different issue on the table in terms of consistency. When you look at what we suggested be done in all of the other areas, particularly Oroville, to be consistent, we'd say this needs to be done under the city's auspices. Because if it's not done under the city's auspices...
Isn't it out of the sphere?
It's out of the sphere. In that case, we're almost playing LAFCO.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. The proposal that I think as John said, I think we need to decide is whether we're trying to develop this in the county or whether we believe that the development needs to occur under the city's auspices. And that is a recommendation we can make.
Absolutely.
Can we just make a motion to leave it?
So let's get a vote here on the same alternative.
Do you want
to?
I would move two competing proposals. I would move that we vote either in favor of a specific plan in line with the developer's proposal that would be developed only under the city's auspices, and I believe we vote one that would be developed under the county's auspices.
All right.
That's the same thing we voted for last time.
Well, we did have a modified alternative too.
Those two only.
Can we, I mean, if the one then, John, isn't the one just staying with the one that was approved last week, this alternative 4?
Yeah.
So the one is alternative 4, which we did last week.
Right.
Which
or
is
do the same thing but require it to be done in the city.
But in the city.
Which is number 5.
Right.
So there'd be alternative 4 being the same as last week under the county, and alternative 5 being the same but under the city.
All right, do I have any support for a modified alternative 2, which we also voted on the 24th, which would be same development as alternative 4, but development would be concentrated in the northwest portion of the study area?
I think you get that in the specific plan.
Any support there? Do we want to just vote on whether it's going to be in the city or the county?
And to clarify, we did vote on 4 last time, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
953.
Do we want to just have 2 choices and not 3?
Yes.
So the distinction would be whether it's going to be in the county or the city. All right, so I'll read the first alternative. Would be alternative 4, the project proponent proposal would allow up to 1,500 new units through a specific plan. Agriculture is underlying designation, and the project would happen under the county auspices. Show of hands, please. Hold them high. $16. That is for the county. Now this we called alternative 5 last time. This is the same project proponent proposal, except that it would happen under the city of Chico's auspices. Show of hands. 7. Okay, next study area, which is, and flip back.
We vote for. Can I get a second?
23.
No, 23.
Yeah, we're to 23, which is the eastern Oroville and Oroville Hills. This is an area we took a bit of public testimony on. There was also a considerable amount.
Did Michael Evans leave?
Of letters in your packet about this area. So I'll go over what took place on the 17th.
Area 23?
That's right, Eastern Oroville and Oroville Hills, if everybody needs a little bit of time to catch up. Everybody ready? Okay. The vote last time was 15, prefer City of Oroville, general plan modified, add retail/residential uses along Miners Ranch Road, allow approximately 18,400 new homes. 9 preferred the city general plan, unmodified, would allow 18,400 new homes. 2 supported alternative 2, would allow approximately 2,600 new homes. 2 support alternative 3, allows approximately 5,900 new homes. So who would like to open it up for discussion? Who nominated this one?
I was the one that nominated it.
Todd.
And a Chico resident, but I have spent most of my life working in Oroville, and of course have a family that's very enthusiastic about agriculture and wine growing. And so I just wanted to kind of ferret out some of the issues because it seemed like the people petitioning us tonight were asking for a change, and there was some clarifications that maybe our plan did accommodate their needs, and I was a little confused towards the end of it.
Okay.
I was also confused, but in particular to the project that's currently going through the process. So, and I don't know if that fell into the city's jurisdiction of Oroville or the county's. The county's?
County.
And how that affects what we've done. So if
Which one is that?
it was, I think Scott spoke about a project that was already in the process.
There's a proposal, I think there was a package came out for about 60 acres across from Cosby's, that area, if I understand right. But I don't know that that was what Scott was talking about. Well, there he is. He can say himself.
Scott's property is on the westerly side.
I think Scott's talking about, he gave us a map, yeah.
Yeah, it's on the westerly side of the planning area, not up by the Cosby's, which we got to watch. Cosby's is nowhere, anywhere. It's now called Lakeside.
I know.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we get bad instructions all the time.
No, I thought in my handout across from Lakeside, just sort of west of where the sheriff's station, the new sheriff's stations that were given back to the county a few years ago, up in that area is a proposed development. Scott's area, I think, is in the southeast area, more along Miners Ranch Road. So I'm not sure where that leaves us, but I'd like to add that I heard the testimony from those people. They're all neighbors of mine. I also live on Mount Ida, about 2 properties down from the winery. It's surrounded by houses, an attorney, and Ms. Kelso over there with an orange ranch. The Checky place is already surrounded by houses, and I understand everyone's concern. I think people reacted to the fact that Alternative 1 had 1,800 units or something like that.
18,000.
Some huge number, right? And that's what I was talking about last week, in that the city's alternative, when I sort of roughed out what the numbers were, they were still big, but they weren't anything that large. And I think their concerns are representative of the fact that developers would come into that area and develop that, but the character of the area of the people that we're speaking is going to remain roughly the same. The ag areas are small areas, like ranging from 5 to 20 acres. A lot of those are on the side of 162, where you go over sort of west of Checky's place, and there are orchards and open grazing lands there. But there is also substantial land around Landbar that isn't used.
Well, and now that we have the diagram up here, there was some discussion about where the density was going to take place, and you can see clearly in the preferred plan that was chosen by the Citizens Advisory Committee, you can see this area, a large area of rural residential, and that's all 5 acres or more.
But correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that resource conservation overlay over the current project?
Resource conservation by the preferred plan that was chosen?
On Scott's property, it is resource conservation.
And isn't that project really close to approval?
That is a resource conservation.
Well, if it is, he's good to go.
Over resource conservation?
This will not be implemented until July or till September of 2009.
And that was just my point, to have a non-conforming use for the life of the general plan.
Happens all the time.
The other point that was raised to me during the break, which does concern me a little bit, is the city pulled back their sphere of influence. does that mean, and I believe I was in the sphere of influence before, does that mean I fall under an ag buffer of 300 feet now? So that anybody has to be concerned about that?
Well,
even though I plotted for the county all the ag permits in this area, and there aren't that many people that are spraying, one of the concerns of the ag buffer to start with.
Right. Well, it is a requirement in agricultural areas in the county.
So my property is about 500 feet across and 500 feet long in
Right.
an ag buffer area.
But there's also, there's buffer guidelines that we hope to develop in the county that will help to adjust that buffer depending on the type of activity that's taking place and mitigating the influence of spraying through buffers, trees, all kinds of different things like that.
That language has been on the books for, 12 years that you guys will create
the
those?
policy has been on the books for about that amount of time, since 1995, but it has been implemented through our zoning ordinance. So we do have an implemented 300-foot agricultural buffer in our zoning ordinance.
Well, but were we getting, the feedback we were getting from the people in that area, the ag people, are they wanting us to downzone this and make it so it's never going to be dense? You're going to be down to 2,600 houses maybe and keep it very rural? Is that what you were hearing from your neighbors? They want this to go back to just being rural ag?
My understanding is the large area stays the same. The people that spoke from the area that is relatively unchanged. And as Mike spoke earlier, the downsizing effectively preserves it more than what it was preserved in the sphere.
Okay, but I'm asking, do we want to make a motion to change what we approved last week, which was this 15 prefer, or just go with what we did?
I would move I would move to vote on what we voted.
Okay.
And would recommend we all vote for that again.
That's what I kind of think, yeah.
So you'd like
or leave it alone.
I just asked for discussion, not necessarily for a vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Do we want to take a vote?
Can I just move
Can we just leave it as is?
Leave it as is? Can I make a motion we just leave it as is?
All right, move on. Next study area, which is
number 5, and I brought it up.
Number 5.
Could Tanya explain how we got from 400 homes to 3,800 homes?
Sure.
I'm sorry, what number?
The 400 homes just covers the rural residential designation. I think originally when we developed this alternative, we set the entire study area at rural residential, and at some point we realized that there is a significant amount of urbanized area there existing, and so we wanted to try to characterize that in this alternative, and so we set that at the current density, which is medium density residential, and we left that build-out projection at 400 units. When we went back and recalculated that for the preferred land use alternative, we realized that there are a significant number of vacant and underutilized parcels within that urbanized area that does allow a very significant possibility for growth. And that's under the current existing general plan. That's what's allowed. And so you as a CAC could vote to downzone that area or change it to a lower designation or change it to agriculture or something like that. But you just have to recognize that you are downzoning what is existing. So does that answer your question?
Well, kind of. Under Alternative 1, it says the existing general plan allows approximately 1,400 units, so you're saying that's not correct also?
I have some revised figures in my notes. So I looked at this again, and Alternative 1, the existing general plan, would allow 5,300 new units. Alternative 2, which was similar to what you chose, Alternative 3, but set that instead of having rural residential, it set it at agriculture. That would allow 3,400 units, which is basically what that MDR area allows, is 3,400 units. And then when you add on the rural residential in Alternative 3 that you chose, it would get up to 3,800 units.
Can you change the slide? Oh.
So what's the number on Alternative 2?
Alternative 2 would be 3,400 new units, And so they're all very significant in terms of build-out potential, primarily because of the vacant and underutilized parcels in the medium-density residential areas.
Those parcels are vacant and empty because there's no water?
Yeah, I think it's important to consider that this area is very constrained, and so I think that build-out factor. I mean, we're applying a build-out analysis that we look at countywide, and I think it's important to consider that there are significant constraints, and so I think that 3,400 units is very optimistic in terms of the possibility. But we wanted to kind of use the same process countywide.
Do you have a take on how many parcels there are in the area?
I don't have that number handy. There's a significant number. If you look at a parcel map for that area, they're very dense and very small.
And is a good portion of those not built on right now?
I think that there's a lot of parcels that are developed and built on, but part of the issue too is that the medium density residential designation allows 6 dwelling units per acre. So if there are, say, if there's a 5-acre parcel somewhere in the middle there that's vacant, maybe because it's constrained or for some other reason, that would allow 30 dwelling units, right there. And so, and then there's also a lot of the growth possibility here is actually on parcels that have just one home, but they could potentially build on additional units with at that density.
All right. Should we recap the vote from April 10th? Would you like to hear that? Yeah. Okay, 16 prefer alternative 3, majority of the area rural residential. And this is with the corrected number. It was 3,800 new homes, right, Tanya? And 5 preferred alternative 2, majority of area agricultural and resource conservation. Not a significant number of new homes. All agree that retail from alternative 1 should remain. All agree that constraints need to be addressed first. That is fire, evacuation, and water.
I like that one. Let's do that one.
Done. Wait.
All right. No
Not
vote.
A significant number.
Move on.
I'd like to speak.
Please.
Here.
Sue.
Yes. They're the same water company as where I live. There's no water. We are now on PG&E water because there's no lake water to give the people. Those folks up there, there's 2,600 or 1,000 of them. They have no way to get out in case of fire. It's the same stuff over and over. I hate to say it, but it's the water stupid.
Why don't we just go for alternative 2?
Yes. Alternative 2 is the existing general plan. And that still leaves Paradise with the option to figure out what they want to do. But if you vote for alternative 3, you've got the possibility of 3,800 homes, no sewer, no water, no service. And if you read the Paradise Post, one of the major issues for people living up on the ridge is that they can't get service.
And a 2-lane road going out of there, period.
All right. Tanya just told me that there are some adjustments to alternative 2. So before we take any vote on alternative 2, she's going to dig out those adjustments. So we know the exact number of new homes that would be permitted under alternative 2, okay?
I'd like to ask quickly, if we had a developer here with a flashy little book, would that make a difference to anybody?
It wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't get you any water or any fire protection.
Yeah. I'm just asking because a lot of the areas we vote on, there's a developer there, and the areas are quite similar. There's no water in 6 either. Well, take it back. 3
All right.
wells.
So there's some adjustments that need to be talked about here, and we really need to correct these numbers so we can set the record straight. Alternative 1 for Magalia Paradise Pines is 5,300 new dwelling units. Alternative 2 is 3,400 dwelling units. And alternative 3 is 3,800 dwelling units.
So I propose an alternative 4 with no more than 400 units.
Okay. Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. well, we'll take a vote on Bruce's alternative
May
4.
May I ask Bruce? Bruce, are you looking at 141 in the alternatives evaluation report when you made that? Because that is the alternative 3.
They just corrected
No, they corrected it.
Yes, I know, but I mean, are we saying that that's what you're proposing? Is that alternative as it was originally on this page?
Well, no, because they're still going to adjust that 400 up to 3,800 because they screwed up.
No, but all the arguments based upon the 400. I mean, their presentation is consistent. The verbiage is consistent with the figures. The only thing is the figures are wrong, so the verbiage no longer applies.
Well, but I still don't want to see any more than 400 homes up there.
Okay,
Okay, so we have a new alternative 4. They can figure out how to write it that says no more than 400 homes, and whatever kind of a dwelling units per acre and all that stuff it takes, then make it happen, Captain.
Just do it.
Okay, well, that's pretty much what you chose last time, was the 400 homes, even though it was incorrect, but it's still the same amount. So do you want to take a vote on that right now?
Sure.
And we're going to call this, we're going to call it alternative 4. Yes? 400 dwelling units.
Is there any
And
residential?
The majority of the area, then, I think we'd call like a resource conservation designation that would prohibit any further development. Do you have any other suggestions, Tanya?
Just to clarify again, the rural residential area that's shown in this map allows 400 dwelling units. So there's different ways we could bring the number down to 400, one of which is to not allow any further development in the medium density residential area. But we could also explore some other options.
I think the point is...
The medium density residential area that Tanya is referring to is the Paradise Pines area, which is zoned medium density residential, and then the white areas would be all zoned rural residential, 5-acre density.
But any development that would happen would have to, the fire, the evacuation, and water has to all be addressed by anything that happens, right?
Right. New point.
Let's vote on Bruce's proposal.
Okay. So let's have a show of hands on that.
400 and
homes.
that's it.
And the rest of the area restricted in some way to no more than 400 homes. $23? Okay. Do we want to vote on another alternative?
Who's going to vote on it?
I guess we'll move on. Next study area.
I would want to do that.
Okay, study area 27. Let everybody get a chance to find their way through the paperwork. This is Pacific Heights Road, Highway 70. It's also known as the Rio de Oro project, specific plan by the city of Oroville.
I asked this to...
Let me just recap the votes.
Okay.
Do you want to be the one who talks about why we are going to change this one, Michael? Or at least discuss it? You want to start it off?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me just recap the votes. And this was 15 prefer alternative 2, entire area in agriculture, not a significant number of new homes. 7 preferred alternative 3, which was a majority of the area in residential mix and would allow 2,700 new homes. So the alternative 3 was more or less the Rio de Oro proposal.
Is that not a significant number of new homes, a good number?
Is it a good number? Is it not going to change? No,
Yeah.
It's not changing, right? That number is not changing, the 2,700 units for Pacific.
No, the zero not changing.
No, they're not a significant number of new homes in the alternative that the majority voted for. I mean,
Yes.
We had one of those here earlier, and
And
it
it
ended
changed.
up being 3,400.
Right. I just asked Tanya, and it's correct.
Forever?
So, Michael, why don't you kick it off?
The overall city plan had some strategies in it to balance the fiscal needs of the area. Part of the city's strategy was to bring the sphere of influence out of the Foothill Farm area, where Area 23, where we discussed, and bring it along the corridors, the transportation corridors. The city's hope was the three guiding options that the city had were neighborhood preservation, corridor enhancement, and whatever the other one was. But what we identified was getting traffic off of Oro Dam Boulevard going through town was critical, because we didn't want to see 6 lanes of Oro Dam Boulevard bifurcating the town. We don't have the money to build another railroad crossing. We don't have right-of-way. The old general plan called for a bypass, an alternate route to Lake Oroville, going right up through the middle of the planning area, and it didn't make sense. It also didn't make sense to undo the crossing at Ophir and the railroad. And so by transforming with the use of the mixed-use zone and the corridor enhancement concept of 162 through town, Ophir, Lower Wyandotte, Foothill, Miners Ranch, around town, and the expansion along Highway 70, the potential for a master plan using the resources on the site, which meant not building anything on the west side, the dark area on the screen, but concentrating on the, not building on the east side, concentrating on the west side, created a financial opportunity for the city to maybe generate some income that if they could annex that and allow that specific plan to move forward, and we have some new information on it, that would be a financial offset to taking the south side off the county's hands. And so the strategy, the overall strategy for the Oroville General Plan update was the corridor enhancement, the shifting of the sphere, and the balance revenue neutral by taking some revenue losers, which are the high-density south side where all the sheriff calls are, and allowing a new entry to town to occur, because we're not going to move the industrial area, but we can move the event called entering town. We can move it south. And with the work that's occurring at Ophir and 70, the lowering of the grade, the light going in there, the diversion of traffic up Ophir, that strategy allowed for a well-planned project in this location where the city wanted to expand their sphere. So what I'm asking is let's be consistent with granting the city's preferred plan, requiring the specific plan to be in the city, which is a ways off. They've got to move the sphere, which will take a while. They've got to annex, which will take a while. And now they've got to do a specific plan, which will mitigate and avoid. And that's what the owners want to do, and that's supported in the city's preferred alternative. So I wanted people to understand there's a part of a bigger strategy here that hopefully you'll now have some more information on. Maybe you'll have some questions about.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Does anybody have anything to add to that?
I have a question. Would it have to be Rio de Oro? Could it be industry or a business park or I don't know what else, something other than more houses out that way? Because houses don't, I think, really fit so well either. In fact, an industrial and a business park or something like that would fit better and be consistent with, you commented on the view as you come into town. If there were a well-designed business area there, that'd be consistent with what you saw as you came down over the hill and with what's currently on the right anyway, although that might change.
Well, they proposed a little commercial area up at the Ophir intersection.
Yeah, no, okay. I remember that.
Nobody had indicated that they thought that was an opportunity. The old plan called for a commercial frontage down the entire west side and industrial down the entire east side. The east side is all vernal pools. It doesn't matter what it's designated. It ain't going to happen. But the west side could. And that might be a reasonable alternative to say to the city, would you consider in your specific plan deliberations, this is a candidate site for your research park?
So maybe a motion needs to be made.
That'd be my question. If I vote for it, am I voting for the Rio de Oro plan, or am I voting for development at that site? I would vote for development at that site if it were consistent with.
Well, and one thing we haven't drawn a distinction here with is whether this would develop in the city or the county in the same way we have other study areas. So I don't know if we want to throw that out there.
That was a question.
You probably want it to go in the city with a specific plan, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you want it to go in the city with a specific plan?
They're going to have to go in the city to get services. So
yes.
Yeah. I mean, that was what we didn't answer, and that David brought that up. Did we mean no development period, or did we mean development, but it has to be in the city?
Okay.
And I think that it's appropriate to be in the city. It's part of their preferred plan. That's what they would support, and that's what I would support. It needs to be in the city.
So can we amend alternative 3 then to say development in the city with a specific plan?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
John has a question.
Well, actually, it's a reflection of the fact that as much time as we're spending together, we still don't really know each other. Is Evans Fun Works, is that you?
That's me.
Okay. So that would be a good thing to disclose for the rest of the group if it's a project you're working on.
I have.
Okay.
Oh. If that's not clear, let me say that.
Well, it was not spoken.
I didn't know that.
I mean, when I spoke last week about something I didn't even have an interest in, I disclosed it immediately and then abstained from voting.
I also have projects in probably every other planning area in Oroville. And that's what I've said. I said I have interests in Oroville and in many projects. I think that's why I was asked to be on the committee.
Okay, so
I think everybody has an interest in some area or not, and that's down this deal. So before we get going into I mean, we all have interest in this area, and in every area.
No, I was just curious if that was Mike.
Well, yeah, and he put it pretty clear on there what it
right.
said.
Let me throw something else out here, too. Is there any interest in designating this in the county for development? Do we have support for that? Okay.
I'm still thinking back to that big bar chart that showed a vast majority of the new dwellings occurring in Oroville, and now we're being asked to enlarge that more.
All right. Well, I think we've boiled it down to two selections here. Are we ready to?
No, I think.
Oh.
I mean,
Excuse me, Alan.
Yeah.
There's no way that'll work.
Go ahead.
I guess my biggest concern, having come up Highway 70 numerous times, is you come down that hill and there's a light there. There's no freeway at that point, where the rest of the 70 through Oroville has freeway on-ramps and off-ramps. And I guess if there's a development there, that if there's no freeway development, that you're going to have a four-way stop, basically a four-way light there, which is there already. But I just wonder about the ability of coming down that hill and having that four-way light being able to handle all the traffic that would be coming in from that new development.
The Caltrans work is safety only. It is not designed to accommodate this. So they're going to have to do whatever they've got to do to meet Caltrans requirements for a project like this, which probably means the lower intersection at Feather or Palermo will also have to be addressed.
I know that one of the reasons that I voted with the majority last time had to do with the issues raised on page 474. Namely, there are 16 listed species in this particular area. And so we said, let's keep it in agriculture because mitigating is going to be an issue. It's a vernal pool core recovery area. So it's not as simple as just it's a new gateway to Oroville. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I think, quite frankly, we're safer with the original designation in terms of going with alternative 2, which is to designate the land for agriculture.
There's no agriculture going on in that location right now.
No.
But here's what we're doing. We spent a lot of money on a conservation plan. And people worked really hard on that. And that's supposed to underlay part of what we're doing. So when we say, well, no, we really don't now want it in agriculture, we think Michael's argument about it being the new gateway to Oroville is really a great idea, and we're going to overlook the issues raised on page 474. That seems to me just opening ourselves up for trouble down the road. I agree there's no ag in the area.
Okay, I think we still have 2 alternatives on the table.
I want to. Okay.
Yes, Georgie.
I want to make sure that we have an alternative that whoever develops on this site in the city has to answer all the questions that the city would have regarding traffic mitigation, density of
They would
homes.
have to do that if they were going to propose
Anything
a
like that.
specific plan.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, thanks.
Yep. So I'm going to recap the 2 alternatives. Please. Move on to a vote. So we have alternative 2, entire area in agriculture, not a significant number of new homes. And alternative 3, majority of area in residential mix, allows approximately 2,700 new homes, development to be done under Oroville auspices with a specific plan. So that's the change from last time. So we'll go ahead and vote on alternative 2, entire area in agriculture, not a significant number of new homes. Eight. Alternative 3, majority of area in residential mix, allows 2,700 new homes. Development within the city under the City of Oroville's auspices with a specific plan. Show of hands. 14. Okay, next study area. Thank you. Study area number 14, which is the Nance Canyon Highway 99 study area. And this is just north of the study area 15, which we discussed already. To recap what happened, on April 24th, we had 11 support agricultural only at the site. 4 supported agriculture with 1,100 acres of industrial, research and business park use and no residential development. 5 supported agriculture with both industrial and residential uses. So, can I hear from the person who acted to reopen this study area? Michael.
Yeah, I'd be glad to address my perception of it. One of the things that was interesting was the discussion of the research park zoning constraints tonight and the amount of space that's available, and adjusting space number 15, jobs generated, from what was shown as 9,293 jobs. If you adjust that on the square footage basis by the actual amount of square footage that the zoning allows, that drops it down to about 3,000 new jobs out at that intersection. I think that we need to be looking at those supporting new jobs closer back into the urban area, and at that density of coverage, I think that gives you the opportunity to address some of the constraints that have been identified with the vernal pool core and those issues. So I think it's worthy of revisiting at least the research park space in the proposed 1,100 acre area.
Okay, would you propose an amendment?
Are you going to go over what the vote was?
Yeah, I just did. We did.
What I missed the question on the amendment. Are you
going to propose
amending it to a research?
What do you want to amend about this proposal? Do you want to take out the 1,100 acres of industrial, replace it with a different amount, or remove it
what were the
entirely?
other alternatives?
No, I would be in support of that area that was the 1,100 acres with the remainder, 1,100 acres of industrial research business park with the remainder in ag.
Okay. All right. The last time that received 4 votes, and of course the preferred plan was 11, supporting agricultural only on the entire site. Do we have any other?
Well, also you had 5.
Yes, we had 5 in support of agriculture with both industrial and residential uses.
I just want to say, as far as the site goes, I mean, there's so many things that the city could do in growing into this site. I really like it for the idea of going from the Skyway over to 99 someday, a business park, a research park, like you said. If the vote is going to be split because one has residential and the other does not, I'm willing to leave the residential off and just support the business industrial park there and leave the residential element out if that gives us better votes.
All right.
And I'll do the opposite, but I'll go which way gets vote. I like to see the residential there also.
You want to add the residential?
Well, I'll vote for 2. I mean, why? Why can't I vote for 2?
Because you get 1 vote.
Who said? I get 1 vote on one alternative.
I think residential would be beautiful there, but I don't want to split the vote if people really feel strongly that just business and research and office locations would only be good there. I want to go with that. That would be my alternative.
Only 20. The numbers are here.
I just find it curious that we kind of shot down last time a research and development park close to an area that has, a city really close by, but yet we had no problem coming way down here and throwing one up. Not to throw this, was it 15 or whatever, under the bus. I just think that it was interesting to me how we justified throwing one way down here last time overwhelmingly. I don't know if it was later in the night that we did retire. We said, yeah, just throw it down here. I may have done that. But in all honesty, I think 14 to me has always been, it makes sense. It makes sense from where its location is. It's been voted over several times at different committees. I actually had the opportunity years ago to sit on the location of the RD parks. So I think, to me, it just makes sense. And I was shocked that it went the way it did last time. And I think part of it was just the way the timing was and how everybody had to talk about everything else. By that time, we just didn't care anymore.
Steve? No, I think there was a lot of really substantial stuff that came up last time that people forgot about by the time they got out to 15. The reasons for not doing it on 14 also apply on 15, and people couldn't get it through their head, and they went with Dylan's dream.
Right.
But I was shocked on last time too, because I asked, I said, look, this thing is up for auction, okay? How are you? And I asked the developer, how are you going to make this amazing research park happen if you're selling the property? And I had to, later I came to really doubt the veracity of his answer, because what he said was, oh, we're only selling 20% of the acreage. So the next day I get the auction thing in the mail, and the 20% the only 20% that we're selling, it just happens to be the place we were talking about, the research park. And when Bruce asked how small a research park could you live with, he said 1,100 acres, which is what he's selling. So we're talking about the next buyer of this thing, and we're hoping that guy doesn't actually call the Fish and Wildlife Service to find out what's going on, to see if he still wants to buy it.
But isn't it irrelevant who owns the property? Does it really matter if it?
No, it's irrelevant if he's owning it and he's proposing to do something. He's not. He's selling it, and he's making representations about it being a master plan community opportunity, which it is. It says the zoning is undesignated, which means it defaults to the general plan designation, which is ag. And he's talking about, the annexation, all this other stuff. And again, if you can't get the regents and the governor to turn this stuff over, how's a industrial park and an old folks home ever going to get past that? He's
Don,
still got to do
an extra grind with Don instead of.
But I guess the way I look at it
the
is
guy lied to us to our face at the last meeting.
About what?
About how are you going to do this if you're selling the property? He said, oh, we're only selling 20%. You're selling what you're going to do the research park on.
He didn't lie to you.
Oh, I'm sorry. He obfuscated. He parsed. He shaded the truth.
You don't do that
sleazed
all
his
these
way
meetings?
through.
Dan, could I ask a question?
I've listened to you for weeks.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I guess, the thing
So-
I want to say is that, I'm trying to look at a plan that's 2030. I mean, that's out there as far as the years can be, that some of us may be here and some may not. It's such a great piece of property, the way it's situated there at the
I think the police are here.
All right. We do have to make an announcement. We have to get out of this building at what time? In about 5 minutes
Oh,
ago.
good.
So we're going to wrap up the discussion of 14.
Anyway, I think, I would like to make, is it alternative?
They closed the gates.
Whatever,
Yeah.
that there's 1,100
There's no
acres
parking.
that can be research and business.
Partying allowed after 2:30.
Yeah,
What?
can,
Research and
We'll be locked in.
business.
can I make a suggestion? I think it's really important to go back and read the study area and the scores that it received. I mean, maybe the consultant's
advise them how
wrong
they're gonna
about
make it
market
through the whole
viability,
process.
and maybe they're wrong about fiscal impacts, and maybe they're wrong about water, and maybe they're wrong about the available services, and maybe
Let's say they
they're
are wrong. Then what? He has
Then you
no
go to
project.
biological-
they're, Jason, just bear with me.
I'm trying to.
They're all Ds. So I'm not sure why. I mean, I think we arrived at a reasonable decision last time. There may, again, be potential, but in terms of the scores received for all of the critical areas, even the financial areas, I want to go with the consultant's recommendations.
Okay.
I want to make a motion.
I want to second Georgie's.
All right, Georgie, go ahead.
No, I'd like to make a motion, and then we can do a vote, I guess. So the alternative, what number are we on? We're number
14.
14. Okay, let me just look here before we get thrown out of the building. That we support 1,100 acres of the development that can be business, research, industrial zoning, or whatever the city, whatever needs to be happening. But I'd like to see that it has to occur within the city, because I think that's going to.
And I want to say before we vote, I
That it
think
would
it's
occur within the city
horrible
of
watching this.
Chico.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that the rest of it remains ag.
Okay.
So
That's
it's
your
gonna be
alternative?
years for the city to take it in.
All right. Is there another?
Is that the real sheriff or a rent-a-cop?
Pia?
Triumph.
I would make a
Okay.
motion to keep the entire property in agriculture and underscore my plea to again protect the scenic corridor that is in the middle of the county that I think will define us for hundreds of years to come, and we should not lose
Okay.
it.
Then I'll throw one out there with the research development, the housing, and then the rest in agriculture.
We won't get enough.
And, I mean, how does that differ from?
How I voted last time?
No.
Georgie didn't have the
Georgie's.
residential in there.
No residential?
I'll put
And-
residential in if it makes
Georgia,
a
you want
difference.
residential?
Sure.
Steve, you don't?
No, I want residential.
Okay.
We agree now.
All right.
And I have no problem with it being in the county also.
Okay, so that's the difference.
Okay.
Oh.
That's the difference.
I don't
All
want
right,
to
I think we're ready.
We're not going to get a vote.
We're ready to vote. Okay. Let's vote for ag only first.
Are we coming back to another meeting here? Because this is extremely rushed.
Why don't you take out?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is too
Okay,
bad.
Houston, we have a problem. Okay, we have to be out of here as quick as we can literally get out of here. The school is shutting down, and they've got to reset this room up. We have a couple of options. We can continue this meeting like to next Thursday, if you would like. We can continue this meeting to Friday morning before the Planning Commission meets. Or I'm open to suggestions.
How many more do we still have to hear?
3?
3? Oh, I think doing justice to those people, I think we need to
3 more.
do another meeting.
Before the planning commission.
So Friday before the Planning Commission?
What time is the planning commission meeting,
People
Tim?
have to work.
How would we do that?
Oh my gosh.
Well, we'd
I
have
think
to
we
do
should
it in a
apologize
different
to these
location.
people.
You're better off doing it Thursday. At least you could prepare something for the planning commission the next day.
We have 2 meetings with the Planning Commission planned, so we're just
Okay.
introducing all this on Friday. So, again, it's when can we get this group together? Next Thursday?
Why not?
And we'll find a location and email that out and finish up the last 3 study areas?
Let's not vote on this one.
No. No.
Okay. All right. We're not voting on 14 or 15?
No, we got to get
Meeting adjourned. Sorry about that.